Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian and I am the horror show host. Today here with me is Ray and Joey. Say hello, guys.
Hello.
And this is our first ever episode of Corpse Buddies. We're going to have the original movie review on my channel, then head on over to the Ray Animated Reviews channel and check out the review for the remake. The link to their channel will be in the description below, as well as a link to their video. So definitely go check them out. We're going to have the same kind of format. It's just going to be two separate channels, two separate videos. So let's begin. First off, let's start off with the plot. Do you want me to do the plot summary for this one?
Sure.
All right, I actually have it written down. I cheated. All right. In a small mining town called Valentine's Bluff, a party is being set up to celebrate said holiday. However, the killings begin again after 20 years of silence. It's just too bad a group of miners and their lady friends are hanging around and in the mining facility. Has Harry Warden come back with a ravaging bloodlust after his tragic past 20 years ago, or is it someone else?
Dun dun dun.
All right, so what are you guys' thoughts on the original My Bloody Valentine?
I loved it. I thought it was a good slasher. I love anything that's holiday themed, and this is keeping in,
She loves cheesy
tradition.
holiday movies.
Yeah.
As long as they're horror movies. I really like I'm a big slasher fan, and I really like this movie. I truth be told, I didn't know about this movie till after the remake came out, and I went back and watched the original, and I was like, the original's a really good movie, especially for the time.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
agree.
of when it came out, and it was such a unique way that it was done. It was like, is it Harry Warden? Is it like a supernatural thing? Is it some crazy person? You didn't really know, and it really kept you guessing, and I really liked it.
The thing I loved about this movie, especially, is with most early 80s horror movies, is the really likable characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like you watch Friday the 13th parts 1 to 4, and they have probably the best characters up till part like next to part 6, and like no one was really hateable, not even the actual character who was kind of like a d-bag to some degree because he was always drinking and doing stupid stuff. But I think that the characters really worked because you didn't have to relate to them, you just had to feel for them, and you still related to them regardless. There's a point in my review that I'm going to be having coming out probably the same day or next year. I'm going to see how much time I have on February 14th. There's a character that's very minor. His name is Dave, and he dies, and they go out saying, "It's Dave, he's dead." And his crush, who we don't really know much about these two characters, screams and cries. And it's like, you don't get that in many movies now where these minor characters have a sympathy character that's relatable to them because this person obviously loved him and wanted to go out with him, but then now he's dead, so you feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that with a lot of characters in this movie. What did you think about the characters?
I thought they were pretty well rounded, and I do agree that I didn't really like. There's always that one character that's like the jokester that you're like, I don't really care what happens to you.
It's like I can't wait for him to die.
Yeah, but I honestly did, actually connect with most of the characters, even the adults that wouldn't listen to anyone and they were being so harsh. I could kind of see where they were coming from as well, knowing the history of the town and what happened.
It's I think the characters were presented in a way in this movie that you liked everybody, and you were like you rooted for everybody. You didn't want anybody to die, and you genuinely felt a little bit of sadness every time one of them died, because there's nobody where you're like, oh my god, I can't wait for this guy to die. He's so annoying. He keeps doing all this stupid stuff. He's a douchebag to everybody else. There really wasn't that character. Even the person that is your prototypical douchebag and the slasher wasn't really that bad. And like you said, the adults were like sensible adults that were trying to prevent like widespread panic about this crazy thing that happened 20 years ago in their town, that their town's probably just recovering from and just starting to move on, and they probably didn't celebrate Valentine's Day for years and years and years. And it's, it's the character for an 80s slasher, I thought it was very well written.
Yeah, there's a few characters that you don't actually expect to die either. Like there's a couple and they're about to make love, and then one of them gets killed, and you're like, well, now the other one's gonna get killed, right? Because that's typical slasher formula.
Mm-hmm.
But the other character actually survives, and he is dreading. He's probably gonna feel bad for the rest of his life. So it's a dark take on an 80s slasher movie, because it's not like it's the typical formula. It's the typical formula, but it's handled in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel bad for the older people, because there's one character who's like the chipper, happy, go lucky, I mean, not go lucky, whatever, character that you really want to see happy with everyone else, and that character actually dies pretty early on.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And even
sad.
later on, when one of them is like opening up because there's a theme in this movie where the killer sends them a Valentine's, and it's filled with a heart, someone's real dead heart. And there's a scene where he thinks he's going to find another heart, but he opens it, or no, but the character opens it, and he sees that the other character that just had died was going to ask him to be his Valentine. I was going to ask them to be their Valentine. I'm trying to jump around the his and hers.
Yeah.
That's crushing.
It is.
You're just like,
oh,
yeah, it's felt so bad.
It's really well written, and I read some reviews that were from like the time this came out, and they thought the writing was a little bit wobbly, the acting wasn't that great. Like some of the dialogue can be hit or miss. It's not all. There's like no real bad performances, but other than that, I think the characters and the acting were great.
yeah, they did a good job.
I think for an 80s slasher, considering the genre, it's really good acting. Because I've seen a whole lot worse acting in 80s slashers, like written with barely any plot, no type of like substance to the character development, and it's just like, hey, there's person, kill that person, kill that person. Oh, it's this person. You Scooby-Doo the mask off at the end. Oh, it was old man gibbers, And I really, I really can't speak enough to the fact that this was like, out of 80 slashers, this is probably like the best written one.
It didn't seem like everything was just for that shot of gore and violence and everything. Like there is a good deal of that in here, but there's a lot more. There's a lot more story.
Yeah, the characters have there's a love triangle. They're deep characters, and what was I gonna say? I just had it too, and I was like, "Don't forget," and now I forgot. I think. Oh yeah, this film was also released by Paramount, which is, as you guys know, this was the heyday for Friday the 13th. Part 1 had just come out, and they were hoping for another big hit. And this made about $5.5 million on a $2.5 million budget, and they called it a huge loss. It made its money back.
And it's I think they thought that they were going to get the exact replication of return they got with the Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the
13th. Yeah,
like those when those films came out, they were so big. The first ones were so big, and they thought this was going to be like the start of a series of some sort. Like they were going to get the big boom at the beginning. And I mean, if a movie costs $2.5 million to make, and you make $5 million off of it, how is that not a win?
I know.
Greed.
And if you look at it, what other slasher movie from the 80s made as much as Friday the 13th, the original? None. Nightmare on Elm Street made about $25 million, which is a lot, but Friday the 13th made about 60, I think, altogether. So nothing really came close to that. So for their expectations to be that high, it was kind of a real risk taker for them, but it still paid off to some degree.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see who was number 3, like, because you had like your Friday the 13th and your Nightmare on Elm Street, your 2 top tier ones. Where's the next one? it's probably right around what this movie made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's in terms of 80s movies. Halloween, the first one is not an 80s movie. It's a late 70s, but it's still not even early 80s.
And this is a standalone. There's no sequels.
Exactly.
There's a remake which we'll get into, but the sequel, they actually had to plan the sequel, I think, for the remake though.
Ugh.
No.
Oh.
But there was no talks of a sequel, I think, because of their considered poor box office return.
I wonder if this was going to launch like a holiday themed horror from Paramount. Like this did so much better. If it was going to launch into like holiday, you would have been your heyday.
That'd be great.
You would have loved the fact that there's a bunch of 80s holiday horror.
I mean, there are some
laying around.
Like none of them have really many sequels, if any of them have any at all.
Well, it's hard to do a sequel because this was made for like a specialty. This is made for a holiday. This is made for Valentine's Day. People are gonna, like your friend, are gonna want to watch this on Valentine's Day if they're horror fans or if they're cheesy people like you and I. But you know, it would be hard to do a sequel, especially with the way the movie ended.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've had ideas for the sequel where it could have gone, but at the same time, I don't think it would have been as impactful. And also, there are some movies from the 80s that were like around this kind of profit, like Sleepaway Camp, that got tons of sequels. I know there's a couple other ones that at least got one sequel, but I think this might have deserved one. At least make it kind of like Halloween 3 and make it like its own story.
Yeah, I mean, and it's something, but like, can you really write a sequel to like an 80s horror movie like 30, 40 years later?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you can.
Yeah.
They did that with Halloween. They did that with Black Christmas, unfortunately.
Oh, that's right. But I didn't even think about Black Christmas.
Holiday
I don't know if that's a sequel though. It's definitely another installment.
I was about to say, I don't know if it's a sequel. It's definitely not a remake though.
No, but they did do a remake too.
Well, they did do a remake, but
and they had Prom Night had 3 sequels. Also, the guy who composed My Bloody Valentine also composed all 4 Prom Night movies.
Oh boy.
You know,
I found that out today. I was like, wait, what?
I
think his name is Paul Zaza or something. I think he wrote the song "The Ballad of Harry Warden," but he didn't perform it.
Oh.
I think this film could have launched a lot more installments if they went in the directions that I was hoping. Make it so the killer got away, and then Harry Warden actually comes back as a ghost and kills the killer, and now he's taking on the guise of being the killer that we thought it was from the original.
Ooh.
So you think it's this guy because he was the killer in the first. So you think it's this person because because that person was the killer because that person was the killer in the first movie, but it ends up being the original killer all over again.
That's interesting.
Where was that, Paramount?
Right?
I mean, they did that with Jason in part 6, so why not My Bloody Valentine?
True. That is true.
And I mean, Paramount, like, they had a track record for making movies that were either inspired by their own works or inspired by other works. Take a look at Grizzly and Prophecy from the 70s. They were kind of cashing in on Jaws. Grizzly was a straight rip-off of Jaws.
Grizzly was straight, just take the shark, put fur on it, and put it in the woods.
Yeah, pretty much. And so for them to do something like a holiday-themed horror movie, imagine if they did this every year, because this came out a year after Friday the 13th. I don't know if they did one for 1982 or another holiday-themed slasher. I'll have to look into that. But I don't think they continue their trend. They just kept to Jason because it was more profitable.
Can you imagine this launch like an anthology where
a universe even like just holiday horror films?
Yeah, and then you would put like, oh my god, the idea of the multiverse and stuff like that, where they talk about Valentine's Bluff in like a different video of like, yeah, well, you heard what happened down there at you heard what happened down there in February last year, blah blah blah, and you kind of get like that the little nod to the other movies in the anthology. That would be an awesome idea.
It would be. I guess we're too ahead of their Paramount's time from when they were in the 80s.
Can invent a time machine and go back.
Yeah.
Bring it back
pitches to the studios. They're like, well, no, My Bloody Valentine lost money. No, it didn't. No, it made its money back and recuperated its marketing money too, probably.
All right, so I'm gonna go into what we liked about the movie the most.
The gore.
The gore.
Yeah.
The kills were amazing.
Yeah.
They were unique. I thought it was going to be all pickaxe all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It was all the surprises at every turn.
Can't be all pickaxe all the time.
I know. That was my original fear, was that when I saw the premise of this movie, I was like, oh, it's a miner. It's going to be like, I'm going to Spartan kick you down a mine shaft. I'm going to hit you. I'm going to kill everybody with the pickaxe, and it was going to be boring.
But we got a haining. We got a, what do you call it? Nail gun.
A hot dog.
The nail gun. Oh, so good.
And we also got the drill killing, where the couple are just making out, and then they find them later on, the huge drills right through both of them.
Yeah, the drill press.
The pot with hot dogs.
The pot with hot dogs.
That too, yeah.
That was my favorite one.
Yeah, that's the character that you feel bad for.
Yeah.
You know what that reminded me of?
What?
Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
That's what when I watched Sleepaway Camp, because I watched that obviously after My Bloody Valentines, after both of them, when I saw that scene in Sleepaway Camp, I was like, I've seen that somewhere before. And then I realized when we watched the movie after that, I was like, oh, that's where I saw that.
And that's not to undermine the pickaxe kills. Like, the pickaxe kills are great.
Yeah.
The one where the old guy gets right underneath his chin and out his eyeball. Like, that's incredible. Mm-hmm. And to bring it onto the transfer on the Scream Factory versus the DVD or Blu-ray from 2009, you can get this version. It's actually out of print, so I wouldn't recommend it. But the footage is it's normal footage, like the normal quality. Then it gets all grainy when the uncut scenes come in. But this Scream Factory Blu-ray has cleaned that up, and it looks great. There's only one scene, I think, that kind of looked not out of place, but off color a little bit. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too noticeable, so I kind of let it slide. You'd have to be like a film aficionado like us to actually notice it. If you're just going into it, watching it, you're like a normal viewer, it's going to be like, why is that kind of off? Who cares?
I'm not going to notice.
He said film aficionado like us. Us. It's like crappy horror movies.
Yep.
No, yeah, like you said, like I really don't think even with the pickaxe kills, he didn't kill everybody. I don't think he killed more than one person the same way with the pickaxe.
Yeah, there was
breath of fresh air.
There was one in the stomach. There was one underneath the chin. There was one in the chest. In the flashback kill. The top, yeah, that too.
That one was awesome.
Wait, which one was that one where it went through on the top of the head?
I can't remember.
I think that's the remake, isn't it?
That might be the remake.
Maybe got them mixed together.
The one kill that everyone talks about is the pickaxe through the chin, out the eye. My favorite is actually the laundromat kill.
Oh, yeah.
It's sad, but it's so gnarly.
Yeah.
What'd you think of not just the gore, but the effects? Like, were they fakeish? Or I think there was a couple parts that looked kind of fake, but
some of it came off a little dated.
A little hope.
But I mean, they're working with what they had.
Yeah.
So I understand it. Maybe they could have done the camera angles a little differently to kind of mask that maybe they weren't the best effects, but
yeah,
you have to consider the time. You know, you got to consider the times, and you got to consider like even for its time, it wasn't a high budget movie, and they had to there's a lot of expense in that and stuff like that. So they obviously tried to cut corners because they were already afraid they weren't going to make enough money out of this movie. So they were already cutting the budget down for this movie. So they obviously the effects would be affected by that, but I still think overall they were good. There's, like you said, there's some spots where it seemed a little hokey, but overall, I think for the time and the budget, I think Anko was actually done pretty well.
I'd argue they actually were expecting to make a lot of money with this movie because it was Paramount Friday the 13th. And also it kind of suffered a little bit because they didn't get Tom Savini back. Because I think he would have elevated the gore to a whole nother level.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, imagine if Tom Savini did this movie.
Yes.
It was also a Canadian production, so I don't know if he actually wanted to go to Canada to work on it. I don't know if was the Prowler Canadian or was that American? It was American.
I think it was American.
Yeah, that had Tom Savini's work in it. I don't know if there's any like Canadian movie he worked on, but
yeah.
What'd you guys think of the music? Unless you want to talk about the effects and gore some more.
Oh, what else can you say? Loved it. I liked the music. I thought that some of the songs, like particularly in the party scene, like they're the stereotypical thing you expect in an 80s movie. So it's pleasantly,
like a country ballad kind of.
Yeah.
The Ballad of Harry Warden is amazing.
Yes, nice segue.
that is like the fact that they created an original song for a movie is hilarious.
They did that for Madman too. And
they have this song for the movie like playing in the credits and they keep saying the name of the movie and you're like, yeah.
Actually, I wanted to get the vinyl from Waxwork Records, but it's so pricey right now. So I think the music is actually really. Oh wait, Joy, did you want to talk about the music?
I think outside of like the songs, I think the way it's like scored with like the tense music and the tense situations, I think that's done really well in this movie because that's big for a movie that's gonna lack in effects. If the sound is great, if like the the tensifying music, like something's about to happen, so you're on edge, like what's going to happen. And I think with the Harry Warden character who comes out of nowhere to kill people and stuff like that, when you have that and you mix that with the tense music, it creates like a really like, oh God, what's going to happen? Oh God, what's going to happen? And then you get that natural jump scare, not a cheap jump scare. That's a really big thing for me. I love seeing that in movies, and I love that about this movie.
The one thing I don't like about the music in this movie is that there's no really solidified theme.
That's true.
But but the music itself is very romantic in certain scenes, and that fits because it's a Valentine's Day movie. But there's no like standout theme or anything. You won't get like a catchy tap your foot kind of theme. But I think the music itself works well. I mean, you don't need an iconic theme for every soundtrack. And I don't think this one technically needed one because the cave adds plenty of atmosphere to the sound and the effectiveness of the movie.
Agreed.
I think this definitely had the iconic song, The Ballad of Harry Warden. Iconic.
And the atmosphere alone in this movie is pretty claustrophobic.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the mining sequences.
Yeah.
And even when he's walking through the town, it's like dead silent. There's no one out there. It's just foggy. It's really cool. So we'll get into dislikes and then overall thoughts. Does that work?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. So my dislikes are that there's some hokey performances, some hokey dialogue, and it's not throughout though, so I'm not going to hurt it. It's not going to hurt the film that much. The kills kind of are great, but some of the effects could be a little bit better. The music doesn't have an iconic theme, but again, the music is still great regardless. So, like every time you say there's a negative to this movie, there's a positive waiting right around the corner.
Yeah.
So, honestly, the only real criticism I can give it is that it is just a straight up slasher movie, generic in some ways, not generic in others. But at its core, it's just a slasher movie, so it can't get a 5 out of 5 for being generic and having the other things wrong with it. There is still their positives, but they can be weighed down by some of the negatives. What do you guys? What any negatives on this movie?
I would agree. Some of the acting was a little bit over the top and kind of cringe, and you're just like, oh, like that's not
Like the part where he says, "I'm
how
sorry, I'm
For
I'm
yeah,
sorry."
for a movie that was supposed to be like a mainstream A list movie, like this had a lot of like B movie acting in it.
yeah.
Mhm.
It felt like it was one of those cheesy horror movies when it comes to the acting. It felt like it had like some of the cheesy dialogue.
It felt kind of like a soap opera in some
Yeah,
scenes,
yeah,
actually.
it had that stupid. I think they way too much focused on the love triangle. Like I could have done with less of like the background love stories and who
Well,
loves
it's
who and
Valentine's.
Billy Bob loves Charlie. Yeah, but I would have loved to replace that more with Harry Warden background story. I would have loved the shift to be more towards the Harry Warden background and away from the current characters because I didn't like the acting. I know it was
I disagree. I
I
felt
hate
like
the
it
actors.
had to have that romantic triangle because
Yeah,
it
because
is be about
No.
Valentine's
I
Day.
don't say completely take it out, but I really think they really did it a lot
Yes,
more than they
because
needed
the
to.
movie.
it's a Valentine's Day celebration movie
But
too.
it's not a rom-com, it's a horror movie.
It is
No,
a
but there was no comedy. It was just a rom horror movie drama.
There
Rom
were
Just
like
a horror drama.
rom horror.
some a little silly parts here and there, but nothing.
Yeah,
you know.
that's fine.
The scene that got to me was when they went to the beach, and so he's like, "You remember this place?" And she's like, "Yes." And that's as far as it goes. Like,
Yeah.
we don't remember this place. Why does it matter?
Yeah.
We
And,
don't
and
remember
so they could have said it anywhere in the town. It wouldn't have been as cheesy as if it was as like it was on the beach.
True.
Because that's a setting that's been done to death.
Yeah.
Especially like in the 40s and 50s. So
Mhm.
it felt kind of dated in that regard.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with one of your dislikes where you said it's a generic slasher movie. That is 100% true. This follows your 80s slasher formula, and they don't really go away from it, really at all. They don't go away from it. It follows all the traditional stuff, and it kind of like it seemed like it was a good idea with lazy writing.
I think it was a cliche idea with good writing.
Yeah. I thought the writing was good.
Yeah.
I hated the dialogue.
I think you hated how the dialogue was delivered, not so much the dialogue.
Yeah,
Yeah, if they set that scene in the town instead of the beach, the dialogue probably would have worked a lot better.
Yeah.
But if they went up to like let's say the mine and we're just walking around saying, "I came here to work and then I left you all and I feel terrible and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry."
Sorry.
And instead of having you remember this place? Oh yeah, no, we don't, but we know the mine because it's been established.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like you can't mention something in a character's background when you haven't told the audience the background. So it feels like maybe there was a scene that explained that place and they cut it out of the movie.
Yeah.
That could be.
Who knows what has fallen on the editing floor?
I'd give this film an overall rating of 3.5 out of 5. I think that this movie is an awesome slasher and you should definitely check it out. There are some downsides, but overall it's just a really fun, really likable in terms of characters and the movie itself, and really atmospherically graphic slasher film. I would definitely recommend you check this one out for the holiday. Check this one out for Valentine's Day, and if you can get to the remake, that's good too. But I actually prefer this one over the remake.
Go ahead.
I would probably give this movie like a 2.5 out of 5. I had a really good time watching it. I really like the story. I really like how they, build this mythos of Harry Warden, and you kind of see how everyone's under his spell and they're terrified. I love the gore, of course. And this is definitely one I always reach for every Valentine's Day because I love seasonal holiday horror movies.
I would give it a 3 out of 5 solely because of slasher bias, because I love slasher movies.
Slasher bias.
2, I love cheesy holiday-themed horror movies. And 3, the kills were amazing. And since I'm such a huge slasher fan, the kills are always very important to me. However, I will completely disagree with you, Mr. Gatto. I think the remake is worlds better than this original.
So thank you all for watching this episode of Corpse Buddies. Make sure to check out Ray and Reanimated Reviews' channel, as well as their video for the remake, which will be featuring me and Reanimated Reviews, of course, because it's their channel. And thank you all for watching. And wait, I'll leave a link to their channel and to the video in the description below. And as always, thank you all for watching. And I am Brian Gatto, the horror show host. Make sure to like, comment on, as well as share this video. Like my Facebook fan page and support me on Patreon. Even $1 a month will help keep this channel going on strong, and I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, check out my Twitter page, which I keep forgetting to put at the end of these videos. And as always,
Subscribe!
there you go.